Hello everybody, this is Angie from Lil Dumplins Nursery, and I'm doing a quick introduction video to answer a few questions about who am I and why am I testing paints on YouTube. My lighting in my nursery is extremely bright right now, so things may be looking a little washed out. I was going to show you a couple of babies here, but looking at them on my screen, they look a little washed out, so I'm not sure what you're seeing, but here we have a couple of babies that I have painted over the years. This is Esme, and she was painted with golden acrylic air dry paints. And this one on the left here is Flynn, and he was painted this past year with Genesis heat set paints. So to answer the questions about who am I and why am I testing paints, I started reborning dolls in 2004, and in 2004 the paints we were using were your typical cream stencils that were oil-based and oil-based paints that you could buy at the artist stores. And we were also using oil pastels. And we were taking Behringers apart, stripping them of their factory paint, and painting the insides of them with purple acrylic paint to try to offset the orange. And then we were going over them on the outside and painting them and making our reborn babies. Over time, we learned that the purple paint would bleed through and babies would look bruised. Things like that we did in our early days. You learn with time that some things seem fabulous when you're doing it, and then later it's a big no-no. So reborn art has constantly been changing. Somewhere along the way in my early days, Genesis heat set paint came out, and we all gravitated to that, and it really changed the face of reborning for so many of us because we could suddenly paint and heat cure it and then move on to the next layer. And those of us that have been using oil-based paints had, we were having to paint some and let it cure a while and paint some more and let it cure a while because oil paints take a good while to cure. So that was fabulous. And so many of us were just ecstatic. And I painted several babies for probably a couple of years there with Genesis. What I found along the way is I started having allergic reactions to odorless thinners, and I kept changing brands, and I just kept having reactions. And my reactions were that they would give me real bad burning in my throat and a headache, and it just really bothered my breathing. So that was when I started down my long journey of investigating air dry paints, and that is probably what I'm best known for, is that I am the bulldog of the air dry paint world, and I call myself the bulldog. That's a joke, I guess, where I work at. I also work for a chiropractor, and that is that I'm like a bulldog. When I get a notion in my head, I investigate it, follow every lead, and I do my research, and I don't give up. So I spent many years researching air dry paints, trying different brands of air dry paints, painting babies with air dry paints, trying different formulations to try to get to fight the sheen that you get with air dry paints, trying to fight the sheen you get with air dry varnishes. I'm the person who actually came up with the method of using cornstarch in your varnish to make it more matte if you use an air dry varnish, and a lot of people are now using my method for that. I've been consulted by people developing their own air dry paint systems for babies, and they've asked me to try their products, and I've always been known as the person that I will be very honest. I will not be rude to you, but I will not gloss things over. If something's not working, it's not working. Or if it fades, I'm going to tell you it's going to fade. Or if it doesn't have enough pigmentation, I'm going to say it doesn't have enough pigmentation. Or if it is a fabulous product, I'm going to sing its praises. So that's just who I've always been. Do I have any formal training in chemistry? No. Do I have any formal training in art? No. Do I have anything that I can hang up as a diploma that says that I'm certified to do this? No. I am an artist that is a pretty much self-taught artist, and I'm a consumer. So I have spent a lot of time reading a lot of materials, doing a lot of research online, calling companies and talking to them about their paints and their products, and calling and talking with individuals who produce products, emailing back and forth. I ask questions. I ask the questions that people want to know the answers to, but maybe are afraid to ask. and I push the envelope on things and I try things and I'm like, well, let's see what happens with this. It might be a disaster, but at least we'll know. So I'm very inquisitive, and that's who I am, and that's what I've always done. So, um, probably a little over a year ago, I just decided that I really, really, really missed painting with Genesis heat set paints. I guess it was been a little longer than a year ago, because it was right before Genesis had their big shutdown because of the lack of availability for products, because the crops were destroyed that year and they could not get the ingredient that they needed. So I had just gone back to Genesis, and I really love painting with Genesis. And the way I was able to go back to Genesis was I found a thinner that I can finally use, and that is neutral thin extra mild citrus thinner. I had used Zest It in the past, and I liked Zest It, which is a citrus thinner that a lot of people use in the UK. And I had used it, but it is kind of pricey and it's hard to get here in the USA. So I found the neutral thin, which is to me a milder smell. It does not have a strong citrus. It's a very mild smell. It doesn't smell up my whole house. My husband's not sitting here going, oh, you know. So that has given me my life back with Genesis, and I love the Genesis paint system. But as we know, that ship has sailed. Thankfully, I bought a lot of Genesis. So when I got back into it a couple of years ago, I've got a bunch of Genesis over here, a bunch of it in my cabinet. I've got a lot. So I'm good. I'm set for a while. The varnishes are the things that I have had a hard time getting my hands on. And so I have been investigating other varnishes. Well, now we have several companies who have come out with their own heat set paint system. And so I've had so many people writing me. I have a group for painting on Facebook. It's the Reborn Connection. It is for artists only. I don't allow any dealers in it whatsoever, because I do not want it to be a sales group or any sales pressure whatsoever. I want it to be a place where artists can come and experiment, ask each other questions, get each other's input, and present our failures in front of each other as well, and not feel intimidated about it. So that is what that group has always been. It's not a secretive group. It's not a let's go bash somebody's product group or anything like that. So I've had a lot of people to ask me what I think of some of these new heat set paints that are out. And honestly, I don't need any new heat set paints. I've got plenty. But I do need to find a replacement for the varnish, because the Genesis matte varnish, the last jar that I got, was the new formula, and I've been using it some, but it's very specific about not getting it heated too high or it goes too shiny, as many of you know. So I also tried the Kobelka varnish when it came out, and I have used it successfully, and I liked it pretty well. It wasn't as good as Genesis, but it was an okay alternative. But then we all unfortunately found out that the producer of that product has not been faithful to the authentic art of authentic artist kits, and we just, we're all disappointed to hear that. So we don't support that at all. So that was now an alternative that none of us want to pursue any further. But anyway, in trying things out, I've had a lot of people say, "What do you think of this? What do you think of that?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I've got to get it and try it." So I bought me some paints. I've been trying it. If you've watched my YouTube channel here in the last couple of weeks, you've seen I've tried some tests where I used the paints with odorless thinner. Well, not odorless, but my citrus thinner, and it didn't go so well. And so I'm realizing that was a user error. And so I've now gotten thinners from both companies, and I'm going to be testing them today. I'm going to make 2 videos today. I'm going to turn this one off in just a minute and start a new one and have a separate video for each company's paint line, so that there's no confusion or no feeling that I'm trying to pit one against the other, because that is not my intentions at all. So we're going to be doing that here in a minute, and then we'll see how it goes. What are the best ways to use each product, and go from there, and just having fun. So if anybody has any questions, I will try to answer them as I see them pop up on the screen, but I also have a tendency to get very involved in what I'm doing, and sometimes I miss that. So if I miss something that is asked, I apologize, but I will come right back and answer you, after the video's ended. I will send you a message. So hope that answers the questions about who I am and why I'm doing this. And I'll catch you guys in just a few minutes. I have a piece that I primed that's coming out of the oven, and I need to get it cooled off, and then I'm going to start another video in just a second. So y'all just stay tuned, and you'll see me pop up again in a minute. Thanks, and y'all have a good one. I'll see you in a minute.